In this video, we are going to see about the facilitated diffusion. So this is one of the topic that comes under cell to cell transport. So here we are going to talk about the cell membrane that allows water or any kind of molecule to permeate by some simple diffusion. So for transporting the molecules, what are the molecules that we are going to transport is iron, sugar, amino acid nucleotides, and many cells of the deposit. Based upon the gradient, it is going to be transport the concentration gradient, it is going to be transported. So it depends upon two things, that is size of the molecule and solubility of the molecule. So size, if the smaller molecule, if it is a smaller molecule, it diffuse very faster. Solubility, lipid, that is the fat soluble substance easily and rapidly pass through the membrane, whereas water soluble substances are very difficult to pass through the membrane and they must be facilitated to pass the membrane. So what are the steps that are being taken here? So in facilitated diffusion, molecules cross the cell membrane with the help of some membrane protein. That membrane protein, we call it as the transport protein. So here it doesn't need any kind of energy to transport the molecule. So that is why they have given here without the expenditure of ATP. Very well, we know ATP is nothing but the energy. So it is giving ATP. Wherever you see the term ATP, it is nothing but energy which is given to that particular concept. So energy is not needed here to transport any kind of molecules here. So there are two types of transport protein present in the cell membrane. They are the channel protein and a carrier protein. So in the first concept, channel protein, we are going to see about the channel protein, or otherwise called tunnel. So in the cell membrane, for easy passage of molecules to enter the cell, the channel are either open or closed. So you can see the diagram in the next slide. So the channels can be either open or remain closed. So if it is open, we can transport the molecule. If it is closed, we cannot transport the molecule. So they may be open up for some specific molecule. Some channel proteins create larger pore in the outer membrane. Example, porin and aquaporin. So here we are going to see what is this porin and aquaporin in the next coming slides. So you see here the porin. Porin is a large transporter protein. So transporter protein is nothing but it is a kind of protein which is helpful for transporting the molecules. So which is found in the outer membrane of the plastid mitochondria and bacteria, which facilitates smaller molecule to pass through the membrane. So even the smaller molecule can be passed through with the membrane. So you can see the diagram of the aquaporin. So here you can have you can see the open channel and the closed channel. So this is a membrane which they have written here inside and outside. So the molecule, when it is open, it can travel. When it is open, the molecule can come inside through this way. When it is closed, it cannot come. So the aquaporin is a water channel protein which is embedded in the plasma membrane. So it is embedded with the plasma membrane. It regulates the massive amount of water transport across the membrane, which is given in the figure 11.3. So plant contain varieties of aquaporin. So for example, if you take maize, there are 30 types of aquaporin are found in it, and they are currently recognized to transport the substrates. So what are the substrates? It is nothing but the glycerol, urea, carbon dioxide, and ammonia, all these things, metalloids and reactive oxygen species, everything in addition to water, they can move from through a plasma membrane. So they increase the permeability of the membrane to water, and they confer draft and salt stress tolerance. This is nothing but talking about the salinity. So the salinity, so salt stress tolerance is nothing but a salinity tolerance. Then the second concept is the carrier protein. So this is nothing but it acts as a vehicle to carry the molecules from outside of the membrane to reach inside the cell, and it happens in opposite way. Due to the association of molecule with the to be transported, the structure of the carrier protein is modified here. So here you can see in the figure they have given the carrier protein, how it is carried inside the cell from the outer membrane with the help of the which is embodied in the plasma membrane. So there are three type of carrier protein classified on the basis of handling the molecules. So you can see the molecules which are floating outside, and that molecules have to enter inside to the cell. Okay. So the three thing which they have divided it for entering the molecule is uniport, symport, and antiport. So you can see in the first diagram, uniport. In this the molecule has a single type, move across a membrane and independent of another molecule. So it is independent. It is not depending upon the any molecule. It is traveling by this way in one direction. Okay, so that is the first one, that is uniport. Uni means one, we know very well. Symport or co-transport, it is nothing but two different molecules are transporting in the same direction. That we call it, that is two different molecules. That's why they have given here a color variation of black and red. So do two different molecules are entering into the cell wall without like in one direction, not in opposite direction. So in the third one, antipode, you can see two different molecules are traveling in the opposite direction across the membrane. So this is the antipode. So be clear with the directions of transport. In unipode, it is one transport, only one molecule is being entered. Sympode, it is two different molecule entering in the cell, entering to the plasma membrane with the one direction. And here in antipode, you can see it enters with the two different direction. Next is active transport. So we know active transport is the thing that we talk about the uphill. Uphill, I already told you, when you want to pump water from the underground and you want to take it to your terrace tank, then definitely you need some kind of energy. You need motor. Keep that in mind. When you are going to talk about the active transport, definitely you need energy. So I already told you, energy in the form of ATP only we can get it. That is adenosine triphosphate. So here we have to talk about the passive transport, because we know passive transport doesn't need any kind of energy for doing it work. So the main disadvantage of this passive transport is like diffusion, that is the lack of control over the transport of selective molecules. You cannot transport the molecules selectively. There is a possibility of any harmful substance can enter into the cell by a concentration gradient in the diffusion process. So we can some toxic substance can enter into the cell and it can really damage and burst the cell. So, but selective permeability of cell membrane has a great control. When we talk about the selective permeability, here you can see it allows only the certain selected molecules inside the cell, and it controls the entry and exit of the molecules. So, active transport is an entry of the molecule against a concentration gradient and an uphill process. I told you uphill process, and passive transport is a downhill process. This uphill process definitely it needs energy, where downhill process it doesn't need energy. For that you can remind keep you can keep reminding, like if it rains, we are not forcing any water to come from the in top of the thing. It actually pour down. But uphill is nothing. When we want to take water from underground, definitely we need motor. So think of rain and the underground water through motor, that you're going to pump it and you're going to save it in your terrace tank. Okay, so passive transport uses kinetic energy of molecules moving down the gradient. So this is active transport, and here active transport use energy to move against a gradient. So the transport protein discussed in facilitated diffusion can also transport ions molecules against a concentration gradient. So this is all about the active transport, where it needs energy is given here as a ATP. So they have also given you an example comparison table of different transport mechanism. So here we are talking about the passive transport. So in passive transport, you are having simple diffusion and facilitated diffusion and active transport. So here in active transport, you need energy, whereas in this passive transport you no need energy. No energy is required here, and this is uphill process, and this is the downhill process. For this I told you to remember rain, and for active transport remember that you are going to pump the water from the underground and you are going to save it in your terrace tank. So these are the things that they have given. Nature of the process is physical, biological. The requirement and presence of membrane protein is no here. In facilitated diffusion it is S, and active transport it is S. So selectivity of the molecule, it's given here. Saturation of transport, uphill transport, energy requirement, and sensitivity to the here you also have to talk about the sensitivity of sensitivity to inhibitors. Okay, so that is what given here. So this is all about the facilitated transport. Thank you for watching.